Hey everybody, Al Fragnoli, Zach Sooty, League Leaders. We are joined today by Jodi Ostergren. Jodi is the Associate Executive Director for the YMCA of Metro Detroit. Jodi, thanks so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you here, and we've got a couple questions lined up for you. So the first one, Jodi, that we want to talk to you about today is you've got tons of experience working within the sports industry and nonprofit. You've worked at Central Michigan University within their facilities department as an intern and a sports camp assistant while pursuing your master's degree there. You've worked with Special Olympics of Michigan and the YMCA of Tampa, Miami, Phoenix, and now Metro Detroit, as we just mentioned. Talk to us a little bit about your journey throughout your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually going to take it back to second grade. When I did want to mention that because I started playing basketball when I was in second grade. I was at the Midland Community Center, so in my hometown, Midland, Michigan, and really started loving sports. I played softball, I played basketball, I was in gymnastics, ice skating, and eventually when I turned 16, I started refereeing for the Midland Community Center and working their summer day camps. So the reason I bring that up is I really started like my love for the nonprofit world really when I was in second grade, and then into when I started reffing and working there. So after that, I played AAU basketball, played high school basketball, and then was fortunate enough to get a full ride scholarship at Northwood University, where I played women's college basketball 4 years, no major season-ending injuries, somehow got through that. And probably one of the best experiences of my life was playing basketball under Coach Jeff Curtis, who's still there, and his staff. So I still keep in touch with them and love going to visit the campus. After that, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I had this love for the nonprofit world and giving back to my community, but I wasn't ready to step out and be a professional yet. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. So I applied for the grad program at Central Michigan and got into their sport administration program for my master's degree. 2-year program, loved it. And I was able to take classes, and then also I had multiple internships, which was tremendous, like furthering your education and then also working and getting that experience to kind of figure out what you want to do was great. So Al, as you had mentioned, first year, I worked for Greg Kiger, who I know is a recent, interviewee. Shout out to Greg, and worked for Kristen and Sarah in the facilities and events department. So I went from a college athlete for my undergrad to then serving college athletes as a facilities and events intern. And boy, when I tell you the work that goes into games, events, I didn't realize that as a college athlete. I worked the football games, I worked women's basketball, field hockey, and softball, and that experience was invaluable. I got to continue supporting those college athletes. I just come from that. Now I get to support them and help them with their career. So that was super awesome. Going into that summer, I helped with the sports camp. So I got to be more I got to help with the coaches and the players and put on their sports camps. And then my second year, I got to intern for Special Olympics, which is on campus at Central. So that was super rewarding as well. After my 2 years, I started applying online, as we all do, trying to find a job. And I was applying everywhere, all over the United States. I'm like, I want to pick up my life and go experience something outside of Michigan. Love Michigan, but there's a lot more to, the world. And I just wanted to kind of start over, be, fresh new Jodi, and go out and start my career. So I applied online and was chosen to be the associate sports director for the Tampa YMCA. So I started my career with the Y there. I worked my way up, got a couple promotions, Then I ended up moving over to the YMCA of South Florida in Miami. In that role, I wasn't sports director anymore, but I was able to oversee the sports director. So I was able to take what I had learned in my, kind of whole career and then help the person underneath me. After that, I moved out to Phoenix and I was in a very similar position. So I got to work for the YMCA out there. It was an incredible experience. I was out there for about 2 years. And then I recently moved back to Michigan, back to be closer to home. And now I'm the associate exec. So I get to oversee multiple directors and our entire facility. It's before COVID, it was about a $3.5 million operation at my location. So I got to kind of expand my career and oversee, all of the staff there. So it's been like the most incredible experience with the Y. And I've been able to move up and get promoted and kind of share my passion for sports and leadership with others. And the Y is awesome. I have the Y on my shirt right here. Plug for the Y, because even though I was in different communities, we were still offering very similar programs, camp, sports, gymnastics, membership, fitness, aquatics, like the list goes on. We just do it all for the community, and very fortunate to be able to work in that type of organization. So I've had a pretty unique experience. Not a lot of people say they moved to like 4 pretty big cities in 9 years. So I'm very fortunate for my opportunities.
So Jodi, that's a wonderful story there. And I don't know anyone who has played sports that didn't have some sort of connection with the Y. I think we've all played a pickup game there, or were members, or swam. But I think the YMCA nationwide is a wonderful organization. So thank you for everything you do for that nonprofit. So you alluded to some of this already, but we want to get in a little bit more in depth. You attended undergrad at Northwood University, where you were also a student athlete. How did that experience, as well as your experiences at Central Michigan University, prepare you for your career? And specifically, I'd like to focus on just playing sports as a college athlete.
Absolutely. So I truly believe that sports teaches an individual so much. And I know people talk about that and it might be cliche or something, but I was thinking about like the types of, attributes that someone in leadership would need. And I'm sure we'll kind of touch on that, but I learned so much through sports. I've pushed myself harder than I've ever thought I could physically, emotionally, or mentally do. And when you have a good role model as a coach who truly believes in you and knows when to say, hey, awesome job, or hey, what were you doing there? I need you to get better. Having that balance is, I think really, really impacted me to be a better person. I also, I did talk about that work experience. Like you don't really know what you want to do until you experience it. And without Central's internships, I loved my facilities and events experience, loved it. But I started questioning like, hey, do I really want to go into something like that? Or is my heart in the nonprofit world? And do I want to serve my community that way? So no matter if a child in a rec sport, I know you talked about everybody has a Y story, because seriously, like everyone has a Y story. Everyone plays, a sport or does swim lessons at the Y, whether you're just doing that or you're fortunate enough, like I was, to be able to go to college and play. I think everyone should participate in sports if they're given the opportunity, because you learn how to lose. I mean, a lot of people don't know how to lose, and they don't know, how to not get that job, or someone's better than me or whatever. And as in sports, you learn those things, that someone's always better. You're always going to lose at some point. Life is hard, but you can get through it. And, I'm just very fortunate to have had some amazing role models and coaches at Northwood, and then, with my internships at Central. So, very, very happy my parents got me into basketball when I was in second grade.
Jodi, you touched on some awesome things. I couldn't agree with you more that sports teaches us so much about ourselves, helps us to overcome challenges and failures in life, as you mentioned, and really teaches us a lot about ourselves and how we can push ourselves both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I love some of the things that you touched on there about your experiences at Northwood. So thank you for sharing that with us. You're in a leadership role currently right now at the Y. So you're the associate executive director there. Strong leadership role. You mentioned that you're overseeing some directors and a large team there. What are some of the characteristics that you believe make up some of the strongest leaders that you've been around?
So there's many. I feel like there's a laundry list of things, but as I think about some of the key ones, I think probably one of the first ones I think of is trust. So building trust within either someone above you, or at the same level or below you, and that takes time. I feel like I read something somewhere that it takes like a year for a team to trust a new staff member, to trust their coach, to trust a peer. It's not going to happen overnight. So building that mutual trust, I feel like really can create a strong leader. I think being genuine and authentic is huge as well. No one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Being vulnerable, I've found that those, no one's perfect. So if you pretend to be perfect, your team isn't going to trust you as much, or they're going to think you're a know-it-all. Being vulnerable and being real. Yeah, I made a mistake, or yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Does somebody else in this room know the answer to that? Let's use that idea. So just, kind of being your true self, and being vulnerable and being open to ideas. Being adaptable. That I have had a lot of successes and a lot of failures in that realm, because as I moved from one team to another within my Y career, the way I managed and led one team, I would try to kind of bring some of that over. And sometimes it's failed because that team needs something else from me that maybe the previous team didn't need. So having to constantly adapt and change to what your team needs is huge. And I think, again, that goes back to sports. You're always adapting, you're always changing, you're always, so I mean, that's been one of the most challenging things, I think, is trying to figure out who needs what and what does my team need, and all of that. So and I think just truly listening and being empathetic, that's something else I've learned. People are human. Like, you have to give them their time with their family. You have to understand certain situations. You have to put yourself in their shoes. And I know the kind of the phrase is treat others the way you want to be treated, but I typically go by like treat other people the way they want to be treated. So what does that mean to them? So leadership to me is like, I don't think you can ever perfect leadership. Like I've read books, there's tons of books, there's tons of podcasts, there's tons of shows about leadership. And even though I'm almost, 10 years into my professional career, I don't think I'm anywhere near perfect. And I think we all just have to keep working at it and keep trying to get better. So it goes back to that vulnerability. You don't know everything, and there's going to always be someone that knows something better than you, or that can be a part of your team. So I think those would probably be my top ones, I would say.
So Jodi, your top characteristics for leadership, I think if we did a draft of the characteristics, our top 5 would be very, very similar. You mentioned trust. I love the vulnerability piece. Huge on that. Alan and I talk about that all the time, that authentic leadership, being flexible and adaptable, and listen and empathetic. And then you also mentioned the platinum rule, treat others the way that they want to be treated. So I think that is all fantastic stuff. And thank you for sharing with us and all of our listeners. Moving on to kind of your leadership role now. If you had an opportunity to provide some advice to some females looking for leadership opportunities in the sports world, or nonprofit setting, what would that advice be?
So being a female stepping into a sports world that can be very male dominated at times, depending on the sport and where you're at, can be very challenging. I mean, I think everybody faces challenges in their life, no matter who you are. But at Northwood, I never felt that because I was on the women's basketball team, and all the other athletes respected our team, and we respected the softball team, and we respected the women's soccer team. And it just wasn't like gender wasn't a thing. I mean, it like honestly, in fact, sometimes we had more fans at our basketball games than the men's basketball games, which I'm like, normally that is reversed, right? Normally there's more fans at an NBA game versus a WNBA game, NBA game. So I never really felt that. And then when I got to starting at the Y as a sports director, I was in a room full of male volunteer coaches, and I was in a room full of typically other male sports directors. And it took me off guard a little bit because I wasn't used to that. So I think so my biggest takeaways is being prepared. So coming in with confidence that you know what you are talking about. And that took some time. So when male, coaches would challenge me about basketball rules, I was like, hey, I just played 4 years of college basketball, and I've played since I was in second grade. Of course, I didn't necessarily tell them that, but I knew the rules front and back. And many times I would be challenged because maybe they thought they knew, or maybe it was because I was female. Not quite sure. No one ever actually said, because you're female, you don't know the rules of basketball, right? So no one actually said that, but I just was seeing kind of a pattern, right? So being confident, being prepared, dressing the part. I mean, I think these are things that anybody could really take away, male or female, but dressing the part, like you know what you're talking about, and you know what you're doing, knowing that you might be an underdog in a room full of men, being a female. So knowing you kind of have to go the extra mile to prove yourself. It probably took me a year and a half to kind of figure that out. So I just kept plugging away, and just the decisions I was making built more trust with my male counterparts or my male volunteer coaches. One of my bosses, my mentor in Phoenix, he told me something once, and it really stuck with me. And it was, do your job great, and then start to try to do the job of the person ahead of you, or above you, I should say. So start to try to find opportunities to be doing the job of your supervisor, so that when that position opens up, you're already kind of doing some of those things, and they're going to look to you to maybe take on that role. So I feel like that's something that really stuck with me. And it's been one of the reasons why I've been able to move up in the nonprofit world specifically, because I'm always trying to do my job really great, and then also find those opportunities where I can help out in other capacities as well. So, we females can do it. I am so for girl power, and creating more opportunities for girls in sports where maybe more boys typically play those sports. And I think it's just proving yourself, having confidence, going in there prepared, not showing your weaknesses, maybe behind closed doors, figure it out, and then present yourself in a confident way. And one of my volunteer coaches, right before I left Tampa, he was like, all of us know whose program this is. All of us know who's running that basketball court, because it's you, Jodi. And I just somehow exuded this confidence, I guess, and I handled things, and I'm very, very proud of that. So, women can do it. It's luckily some sports, volleyball and Even soccer, I feel like has a better mix of male to female ratios, but sports like football, basketball, I mean, they're very kind of one-sided. So I encourage all women that want to be in sports and to do it, and to, let me know how their journey goes if they ever want to reach out, and we can talk about girl power in the sports world. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Jodi, I absolutely love so much of what you just shared with us today. Being the father of an 11-month-old little girl, I hope that she shows some of the characteristics and traits that you've just shared with us, and develops into a strong female leader, much like you are out there. You mentioned being prepared and being confident and trusting the part. Absolutely love that stuff that you shared. And your mentor in Phoenix telling you to just do your job, your current job, to the best of your ability, doing it great, and then doing that next level up, learning pieces of that too. I absolutely love that. So Zach already touched on some of the leadership qualities that you shared. I could not agree with him more and you on what you shared. You talked about vulnerability. A lot of people don't talk about that and don't totally feel comfortable. So I love the fact that you shared that, because that's huge. Just admitting that you don't know everything, right? And there's always room to grow and learn, and really trusting people in your team, being genuine and authentic. I loved everything that you shared. We know you're busy, so we can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your day and talking to us about your experiences, your journeys. We know that everybody's going to love what you had to say. So thank you so much, Jodi. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. If you ever want to do something in the future, totally down.
Absolutely. We're probably going to end up doing another Central Michigan reunion. So look for that shout out pretty soon. And again, thanks, Jodi. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Fire up chips and go T-Wolves. I mean, we used to do the little, it's a Timberwolf.
Absolutely. Fire up chips. And I'm assuming T-Wolves is Northwood. So
yes. Thank you for having me.